talk about the fact that we're in a golden age
Yes.
of fucking stand-up comedy.
Yes.
For the last 25 years.
Yes.
It's 2021.
Right.
There was a wave of the bearded youth movement. Maybe that
Right.
was you. Or did you have a beard in like
No,
2002
I
or
didn't.
2003?
This all okay. I look like the dude who gave Jenny AIDS and Forrest Gump post-COVID. Like that is the that's the look I decided.
Okay, that was your COVID look. Okay, so like
Dystopia tonight. Dystopia tonight.
it's me right now telling people on Twitter that I'm on now.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for plugging it.
Now on Twitch.
Yes.
TCH. How do you spell Twitch? There we go.
Yeah, TDBITCH. Yeah.
I don't remember that about that. Here's what I would. People have always been like, you have that sort of mom vibe, and I was like, yeah, I'm a Cancer, man. Anyway, someone gave me rose quartz once when I was in my 20s, and I have no idea why I do. I think of it as in the best way, I'm a helper.
Yes.
In the worst way, I'm a fucking meddler. So best of luck. It's a crapshoot whether you're going to get one or the other. You might get both, and
and especially
and then
since it was unhealthy. Unhealthy snack. It's like you're an enabler too. I feel like, and a lot of us probably addicted to popcorn and pretzels now because of you.
Yeah. It's plus, comics are always hungry.
Always.
It's usually, especially like newer comics who have day jobs and have come from their day jobs to just do a set.
Yes.
I did that for so long, and I was like, when was I? Oh, that's why I eat crap, because I'm going from like a place that has like, I don't know, mozzarella, it's mozzarella sticks from Mini Muffin Monday to mozzarella sticks. This isn't a positive.
Oh no, I was gonna say I remember like talking to a dude at this guy who works at the gym or whatever, and he was kind of trying to talk to me about like, lifestyle stuff as I started to go out on the road more and whatever too. And he was like, we got to figure out how to fix your eating habits on the road. He's like, give me a rough estimate of what you eat on the road. I was like, when you pull into a gas station and there's those blimpies there and it's questionable, that's what I eat on the road.
Yeah.
Like,
how they make a sandwich in a triangle? Yeah, triangle sandwiches. I eat too many triangle sandwiches. The healthiest, I must have been like 2 years on the road when I was like, I'm only going to eat Subway. Yeah, because Subway's low calorie. You can just get all veggies and maybe a couple of pieces of turkey. You can go no cheese and just mustard. Yeah, and like I had like this elaborate plan, and so for like 2 years I ate Subway sandwiches, and then I couldn't even smell I can't. It's really hard to be around the bread now. Yeah. Like it's hard to walk by a Subway.
I feel you. Do you know Joanne Filan?
Probably.
Okay. she goes out on the road with me all the time, and she loves you and Lori Kilmartin, by the way. She's a big fan. She listens to your podcast.
What's her full name?
Joanne Filan, Filan. She's
okay.
She and I started together, and we became really great friends. Then when I started headlining, I was just like, come on the road with me, and we go on the road everywhere together at this point, because I don't, when you just find somebody and you're like, I literally don't ever want to travel with anyone else again.
Yeah.
That's
or you don't travel anywhere. Like you forget that you need to travel with people, and then you just meet some rando. That just happened to me in Vegas. And nice. First of all, that's on me. I went to Vegas. But the two guys who opened for me, MC guy ended up being an okay guy, but the feature was just super cold and kind of weird. And they both had jokes. The MC was proud that his closer was from '94.
Oh my God. Wow.
And the feature had a joke that was it was a Bill Clinton impression.
No.
And I was like, dude, is it 1996? That's why the MC's psyched that his closer's from '94? Because it's just 2 years old. Anyway, so you're on the road with Joanne finally.
Like, how long have we been in COVID? Did I really go back in time? That's so great. Oh, I love that happened in Vegas too, because it really is. There's no, they do try to eliminate any reference of time there to begin with, and I like the idea that they're now throwing comedians for you to work with that really disrupts the time flow.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the building of the show is hard.
Yeah,
but I don't really get. I mean, a friend of mine told me that she just brought her feature with her, so which I think is the way to go. But it's just. But I know that features get paid so poorly, and there's so much. I don't get paid enough. Yeah. I think it's this year. This 21 is going to be the year that I'm going to make so much money that I can afford to, because I can bump a feature a couple $100, but I can't, and the people I want to travel with are like Carmen Morales, but the people who bring me are Maria Bamford and Brian Regan.
Right.
Yeah.
I know.
And they both have huge careers.
Yep.
And so so it's actually quite nice.
Yeah. I find myself, Joanne's one of those people that, like, obviously you always want to travel with people who make you work hard too. So she's super fucking funny. And she's just great. Like, it's just such a good dynamic because she's fucking hilarious. I'm not bad. But like, I feel like the show just always winds up going super well. But it is one of those things where sometimes I will wind up apologizing sometimes because I'm like, I can't do anything about the money. Like, I'm like, even the money for me, and I'll try to, like, balance that or whatever. And she's like, I don't stop. Like, because I feel like we're both at the same point. Like, but if I just wind up getting things. And
but the thing, it's just like, I mean, it's like playing. This is a terrible. It's unique that I would have a sports analogy, but it will, like, if you play basketball with someone who's as good or better than you play better basketball.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so if you have someone opening for you that's better for you, your game is better. And the audience is psyched. One of my favorite stories I once did. The first time I headlined some weirdo club that used to be in the Mall of America called Knuckleheads. People get to name their own clubs.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
there was a Knuckleheads in my hometown that I used to MC at when I first started doing stand-up in Toms River, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, that's insane that there were two horrible clubs probably named Knuckleheads. But go ahead.
It was just in a giant mall, the Mall of America.
Right.
And so the first week I got to headline that club, Isaac Whitty, who I don't know if you've ever seen Isaac Whitty, but he's hilarious. Letterman.
Yes.
I don't know if he does stand-up anymore, but he was, because I think he had some issues. But and he emceed. He fucking emceed. And then the feature was Chad Daniels. I don't know if you're familiar with Chad Daniels.
I am.
But he's a goddamn genius.
Yes. It's
so
yeah.
But by the time I got up, I was like, just going to try to keep it up here, people. There's not going to be a lot of
you're
this.
Like lift. As soon as you said the two names, I'm like, that's a wallop of a show, though. All three of you. That's incredible.
It was an amazing show.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a week of I had the time of my life. I had it was joy, quite honestly, working with those two guys because they're so good.
Yeah, when it's one of those things that you also like hope they have a really good set, because then you just know, like, oh, good, they're having fun. I'm gonna have a fucking blast. And then we love to do this. Yeah, and that's the most important part. That's why I love doing it. Because I have like when I don't get to travel, with Joanne, it's kind of it's fine. It's sometimes I wind up seeing people I haven't seen in years, which is always good because you're like, oh my God, this is fucking great. I can't believe we're working together. But I get bummed.
It's just not as like I brought Carmen Morales with me a couple of times, a couple of weeks last 2019, I guess now.
Yeah. Oh
and it was the first year I got to bring anybody, and she was great. Yeah. And she rose the bar, the bar. It was just you ride that wave, and that's what you want in stand up. You want the whole show to be amazing.
Yes.
That is the ideal.
I'm always stunned when I remember, I don't know. So I'm going to ask you when you started, if it was kind of like this though too, but when I was coming up, I'm fortunate enough to run into very cool people, like very cool comedians and who are really nice. But I did run into those other ones that I swear to God just wanted to make sure everyone else sucked so that they could do somewhat. And I'm like, I don't understand the concept behind that. Like,
right. Those are you call those people your work friends, man. Those are not. Great. That isn't awesome. It isn't good.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Yeah. So when I started, it was what I usually say was I count the 80s as 1 year. Unless I'm talking to some old dinosaur dude who's like, so when did you start?
And they're like, you remember Pips?
Yeah, well, in like a weird judgmental tone, which was, and I was like, 1984.
Right.
So
hey, year I was born.
There you go. People were born. People are adults, and they were born then. And so I don't know. I was 19, and so I worked with guys. It was Sam Kinnison's Brothers Club.
Oh wow!
So you can imagine the caliber, of humans that were headlining that club. There were people who were interested in if they were going to get paid in coke or not.
Yeah.
And so it was the 80s. It was dumb. But I did stand up for 8 months every single night, and I got a 1.8 that semester. It wasn't my finest academic. But
so you obviously were not getting paid in coke because you were not staying up.
$10 a month, $10 a week, rather.
Wow.
I took a Xerox. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I might not be young. A Xerox of that check. I cashed that fucking check, but I still have that Xerox of that check.
Yeah,
wow.
The first check I ever got.
You know what's funny? I love to talk to you. I love that you said the caliber of people, because I kind of wanted to talk to you a bit about that in stand up, because I feel like we are, like, just from following you and stuff like that, kind of simpatico, you know, on that level or whatever. I cannot wrap my head around, like, to me, I feel like because let's face it, we all have podcasts and shit like that, but sometimes it feels like let's see. For some reason, Tom, I'm like trying not to mention names when the only thing I've ever done in this podcast is drop names.
Talk about? We could talk about bad guys, but we could talk about the fact that we're in a golden age of fucking stand-up comedy.
Yes.
For the last 25 years.
Yes.
It's 2021.
Right.
There was a wave of the bearded youth movement. Maybe that was you. Or did you have a beard in like 2002 or 2003?
This all okay. I look like the dude who gave Jenny AIDS and Forrest Gump post-COVID. Like, that is the that's the look I decided.
Okay, that was your COVID look. Okay, so like, you know, like Conan and Matt Bronger and that generation of James Adomian,
Brian Posehn,
and Posehn's earlier. Posehn's late 90s, right?
Oh yeah.
So he started with Patton and Janine Garofalo and Liz Winstead, and creator of The Daily Show, right?
Yes, Liz Winstead, brilliant.
So like there's been the alt thing that came in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
It spawned. It really made it okay.
Yeah.
Right, because as good of a comic as Seinfeld, right?
Yes.
With the one-liners and the observational and the setup punch business.
Sure.
That has been hacked so bad.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That when he does it, it sounds dumb. And you're like, no, because it's sort of like if you watch Seinfeld do stand-up now, you're like, I don't know, there's something weird about it. Well, it's because it's been hacked so bad.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like watching Tim Allen. Nobody's hacked Tim Allen, by the way.
Right.
Just so you know. But Tim Allen still talks about tools. And it's actually still pretty funny.
It is.
But I remember in 2018 or 2018 probably, I saw him at the Improv and he was on stage for 10 minutes and I was like, is this fucking guy still talking about tools? Holy shit, he really likes tools. Dude still likes to talk about tools. And you're like, all right, okay. All right. And he's still making it funny. So I'm still talking about my dad. Yeah. Right? I mean, we're all still talking about the same.
Absolutely.
So but I will say that, okay, so there was like this in the early 2000s, there was this rush of just sort of dudes that came out of, I think, 9/11, man. I don't know where the hell they came out of, but they were
out of the ashes.
They were introspective and smart and unique and irreverent, but funny and not mean and interesting. Yeah. And in the last, I would say 6 or 7 years, there's a shit ton of 28 to 35-year-old women that nobody can touch them.
Yes.
Right? There's the famous ones like Nikki Glaser and Eliza Schlesinger. And then there's the people that aren't famous, like Brandy Posey and Carmen Morales and there's, and then there's the people that never stop that are still doing it well, obviously. present company. But like the thing is there's such a young upsurge of new young women comics that are fucking glorious.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's an amazing, I mean, we're in a golden age of stand-up that's lasted over 20 years.
Yeah, and it is crazy, and it seems like it's sustained, like there's a sustainability to it now too, because it just keeps, there's different avenues, it keeps pumping out, there's different comedians
feeding on itself with these TV shows and this nonsense where you're like, okay, with the navel gazing, with the Miss Maisel and the hacks and the 1,000 different, what's it like being a stand-up? Well, you could ask anyone because everyone's trying it.
Yeah.
And
and it's all reaction videos. Like the comics talk about other comics, talk about other things, I mean, every post on YouTube now, sometimes I'm like, is it because I'm a comedian and they know I'm a comedian that I'm seeing this? And I realize my friends see the same shit. It's this comic talks to this guy, talks about that comic, cycles back to 5 videos before. And you're just like, it's insane.
Right. It's why people still hang out with Joe Rogan, though.
Yes.
Right. Because you're like, if I can get on Joe Rogan's show, I can, maybe 80% of his listeners are douchebags, but 20% of them are just, sort of goofy, irreverent. They're like, they like kind of the sane stuff that he does,
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody, there's good in everybody, but there's you want people to use a platform like he has,
right,
for more good. You're I wish you were a better person.
Exactly. No, I know what you mean.
You're not a monster,
Right.
I mean, to my knowledge. I mean, I don't.
Right.
I don't know. Wait, he is asking people, like, if you have that. Like right now, people are thinking that they have a Dune disease where they have a worm inside of them.
Right.
They don't. Nobody's got a worm. So if you need dewormer, talk to somebody else. But everybody else, just get a rose quartz and shout at the moon.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, the only side effect I heard he had was he was a little hoarse the next day. Hey, I'm gonna just exit me out of the chat. Just close. It's just you and Jackie, and I'm done. That was horrible. Yeah, it is kind of weird. And I've met Joe, and I'm sure you met him too, whatever. And I always thought he was a nice, nice dude and stuff. And I understand why comedians like to go on his show. And I always like, even to my friends who seem to take, like, they're not in comedy or in showbiz or anything like that, but you know how the internet likes to fracture people overall in general, and they have to take an identity.
East West.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, hey, like, look, like he's, I like some of the conversations that I love, especially with some of my favorite comics. I think those conversations are important. I think they're great. I like that kind of shit. The only time I get pissed off is, when it's a fucking public health emergency and you're fucking giving out
weird hate crime.
Yeah.
You're just like, hey, this is a super low bar. Shitbags.
Yes.
You don't have to actually, that's all we're hoping you're going to avoid, right?
Yeah. I felt so bad the other day. They had, because it was one of those things I was talking to Ted Alexandro about, and he was like, he made a good point, and he was just kind of like, he talks to everybody. That's what they say. And he's like, but it's not like he's having, the complete opposite point of view. I mean, if he's having people that he likes on, he talks to everybody within this swath of. But he had this woman on who I felt so bad for. Obviously, super brilliant.
Who is
super.
This? Wait, I'm sorry.
Do you know? I cannot think of her name. She's a virologist that he's had on before. But it was obviously
on Joe's thing.
On Joe's thing, yeah.
Okay.
And it was obviously to kind of show, like, hey, I'm having somebody on who
science. I know that there's science.
Right. And I felt so bad because you know how comedians are. You know how we even function in an argument, right? Sometimes even if we don't know what the fuck we're talking about, we're just really good at, the art of conversation. This woman was clearly super smart, knew what she was saying, had no idea how to verbally combat Joe's nonsense. And I was like, this is going to look like, I knew what the perception was, and it fucking pissed me off. Because I was like, he knows what he's doing. It sucks that she's trying to do her best because she also still has a job. So it's not like she's like the rest of us who go on these podcasts and can literally like maybe say the wrong thing. He's saying nonsense and trying to throw weird questions at her, and she's trying to answer with all the knowledge that she has to the best of her ability to not get herself fucked. And I'm like, that is the worst position to fucking put anybody else in.
Right. And the crazy thing is if you ask a comedian and probably a musician or an actor or just someone who talks for a living, their opinion, even if they don't have the information, they're going to have an opinion.
Yeah.
I have an opinion on absolutely everything.
Yep.
You don't need to follow it.
Yeah,
you should probably get a second source. How about that?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. You should get a third source if your second source is Wikipedia. How about that? Why don't you keep looking, keep digging?
That's what always fucks me up too, because I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't like. I agree with you. If you've got a platform and you want people to do the best they can with that platform, and when they don't, they fall short of it, you're like, fuck. But at the same time, as you just said, everybody's got an opinion on something, and I find it, weird to just be like, yeah, no, they're not allowed to say it because some moron might think the wrong thing. And I'm like, well, that could be true of any point of any person with, like we would never have conversation anywhere at any level. It would be like, it would be insane.
They're just everyone can have one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the podcast I have with Lori Kilmartin, she wanted to start this thing because there's literally hundreds of stand-up comedy podcasts where it's one middle-aged white dude talking to another middle-aged white dude.
Yep.
And so she was like, do you want to be middle-aged white women talking to each other? And I said, doesn't sound like a step forward, but it does seem like a lateral move. And so there's that.
Well, I'm glad you did.
There's that.
It's kept me awake many a night I love listening to you guys when I'm anyway.
Nobody ball busts as much as she does. She's so good at it.
She is. Can I tell you something? So she, remember when you did the charity thing for the kids with cancer thing that we were putting together that I asked you to do? So I asked Lori to do it too. I'd met Lori when I was out in LA, but I sent her and I, you were so right when you were like, hey, just email me because this DMing thing, it's not the best way. And you're totally right. Sometimes it's not. So, but I DM'd Lori and I didn't think to email her. And she never saw it. So, but I didn't think anything of it. For whatever reason, she saw it a week ago and goes, hey, yeah, I'd love to do it. And I went, I was like, oh, thanks. But that was, January. Yeah. And then she goes, oh, well, all right. And I said, well, listen, I said, I'm doing a podcast. I'm talking to the podcast. She goes, oh, man, this turned into a podcast. No, it didn't. But I feel weird not extending the invitation.
Right. Well, and that's what I tell everybody about the Dork Forest. I'm like, people are like, I really want to do it. And I'm like, holy smokes, it's an attainable goal.
Yeah.
I mean, podcast guests are, and I've been doing that podcast. And quite honestly, the scheduling is the hardest part.
Yeah.
But anyone can do it.
Right.
I have just fans or people with other podcasts or PR people are like, would you like to read their book? And I'm like, no, I would not. I'm already not reading 4 other books that, but I am rereading Dune. Does anyone want to talk to me about that?
Dude.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
There's a new movie coming out, so I thought I'd ruin it by rereading it.
Yeah. That's always a good, I know what you mean. I'm excited for the movie. That's why I have not gone back to, my friends and I are all, this is our big concern, by the way. We're all in a group chat, and we're all like, Dune, I swear to God, this movie better be fucking
It actually looks pretty good.
It does, and I'm.
But I have to say, I'm listening to it on Audible because I drive up to my mother-in-law's. So I'm like, I'm halfway. I'm a little past halfway. And I have to remind myself that Frank Herbert wrote this thing, and he wanted to write powerful women characters, but he was writing during the filming of Mad Men. Right? Like he's literally in 1965, this thing was published.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's 1961. He wants to write powerful women, but women, he's got the bad guy and then he's got, who is, sadly an evil gay man.
Yeah.
And then he's got the guy who thinks that the main woman is the traitor because bitches, man. And then you got the guy who meets our main lady, and you're just like, all right, no, I get it. Yeah, all right,
I know.
So, but the thing is there's a couple of, it's such a great story. You know, it's got, you know, but I will say, like, that was written in 65. I made my husband listen to this other series on Audible, because for 16, 18 months now, we've been driving up to see his mom for lunch. She's in our pod, 3 hours each way. And so we listened to this, the Vorkosigan series,
right?
Which I've read many times. Well, Lois McMaster-Bujold wrote the Vorkosigan series in the 80s. So it is, first of all, it is better. The women are written better because she's a woman.
Right.
But I'll tell you something, the sexuality written in it, because she also won Hugos and Nebulas coming out of her ears. Okay. And Hugos and Nebulas go to people who are willing to write some sexy time stuff. It's actually, it's gotten slightly better. The N.K. Jemisin winning the last 3 years, that was strict sci-fi fantasy, amazing writing, world building. But anyway, the Lois McMaster-Bujold Company series, this has turned into a book podcast. Hi, Twitch. And but that series, the Vorkosigan series, is the sexuality, you know, the way hermaphrodites are described as it.
Oh, Jesus.
And it is because she was looking for a they-them kind of thing. And nobody had made it up yet.
Wow.
So
that's insane.
Nobody had discovered it because she wrote it in the early 80s.
Right.
And that's still 40 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And the 60s was 80 years ago, right? Or 60 years ago, which is weird.
Yeah, it is. Dude, it's so weird. I know. I always see that shit online. That's like, hey, you know, the 90s now is just as far. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah. Stop doing math at me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to live my life.
Exactly. I'm like, you're depressing me with the math shit. Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know that series. I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm hoping the movie's good. I almost want to rewatch the bad one. Oh, somebody just popped up. People were hung up on the grammar of they, them for a long time, unfortunately. What do you mean were?
Well, it's the hardest part about they, them is using it in syntax.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just a learned skill. I mean, I have a nephew who for 18 years, we called him TJ. He turned 18 and he said, I would like to be called Thomas. And so now we're working on that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I fuck it up and then he kind of flinches and I go, Thomas. And so when I get someone's gender, when I misgender somebody, I apologize and try to get it right. And it's going to take a second because it's new.
We're all, you know,
but it's such a great idea, you know?
It is. Well, you know, it's funny. It's like one of those things where my friend and I were talking and I think, fuck, Tom knows I do this every episode. I'm trying to think, who's the singer who just went they, them? She was on,
or they were.
Oh, fuck me. See, God damn it.
Happens right there in the minute.
Tom, cut this out. No, it was, they were on AGT and they were
Is it Demi Lovato?
Demi Lovato, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Rachel knows.
She was on it.
That was beautiful. What timing? Yeah, Demi Lovato and my friend. So my friend and I are talking on the phone and they had just said it. Right, like just announced it. So my friend's like super on top of the shit. So she said something about Demi Lovato, and then she was. My friend was like, "Oh, she likes to be called they now, so it's they." And I'm like, "Okay." So now I'm trying to do it. I thought I was gonna have I could not in the conversation as we were going on get my brain to correct because I talk quickly anyway. So I was just constantly fucking up. And at one point, I just went, I can't do this. She's too famous. We don't know her, and she's not on this line right now. Like, can we, for the love of God, switch topics? Like, because my brain was like,
you'll figure it out. I mean,
they,
and it will happen. The thing is, the first generation of everything, right? Mm-hmm. When women first decided that they would like to be treated as humans, you know, when black people were like, I don't know if you know this, but we are actually people. And, you know, but it takes, civilization takes so long.
Yeah.
And it is like in my new album, I do this bit, which is just going to get better and is sadly just going to be on that album. And it's going to be lovely. That album, it's going to be, but the point is that people are a stack of meat, right? Mm-hmm. With a brain on top.
Yeah.
And then we all have different sausage casings and we meet the sausage casing.
Right.
And we go, I only fuck that sausage casing. I hate that kind of sausage. And you're like, do not use this as an excuse for cannibalism. And if we could just see the stalk of meat with a brain on, that's what they, them is trying to do, right?
Yes.
Because most people, when you meet them, don't want to have sex. They want a cup of coffee. They want a job. They want to have an apartment. They want, they're looking for, they want to buy a book.
Right.
Whatever they would like some gum. Fucking cut them some slack.
Right.
And so it's the first generation of they, them is going to have to live this life, 30 years from now.
Right.
Whatever the next iteration of civilization and growth is.
Yeah.
They're going to be all up in your face going, they, them. And you're, taking it for granted. Like we all, like people take the first gay people, the first queer people, and the first, the civil rights, the people who sat and were dragged off and were beaten. And it's so weird being in a fishbowl of middle-aged white ladydom where you're just, I spent 60 years, or I'm 56, too much info, but whatever. You could cut me in half and count the rings. Anyway, so, but the thing is like if I've just been circling this castle in my fishbowl for my entire life, thinking that I was, awakened, thinking that I got it.
Yeah.
And then, but the distortion of the water as I look out of the fishbowl, and then all of a sudden I'll jump out of the water and I'm like, holy shit, institutionalized racism.
Yeah.
And you're just like, why did I never? And so like the learning curve right now for whitey magoos and menfolk is very steep.
Yes.
Right now. And
Agreed.
most decent people are genuinely scrambling around going, no, I am sorry. I didn't. Yeah. I swear to God, I sound like an asshole for not realizing, but you are right. I hear you. I will try to course correct right now, right on the fly.
Yeah.
And it will help.
Yes. I agree. And how weird is it that you were talking about, the history of it, that we have not caught up to these patterns? The fact that, like, guys, let's just cut to the chase. You saw the civil rights movement went. You saw what happened with gays. You saw what's going to happen with trans. Let's just fucking adapt and move on and get these dumb bills out of the way. You know what I mean? Like, we always wind up moving forward. It takes a long fucking time for whatever reason. But I mean, just look at it. Let's just fucking stop and let's just keep progressing.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the only good news about the horrible world that we've lived through in the last 5 to 13 years is that every rock in this country has turned over.
Yes.
And absolutely. The light is just on worm people. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So there was a famous Black author who said, believe people when they act like shitbags.
Yes.
I paraphrase, it turns out.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of who fucking said it. I was like, God damn it. But I know exactly the quote. It's a great quote.
It's a great quote.
When they show you who they are, horrible, believe them.
Yeah, believe them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah. And so, and the learning, it just, civilization sometimes moves so slowly, but it does move. And I think, you can either, and some people are like, well, it's too big, I can't do anything about it. I'm like, well, you could help the person in front of you.
Yes.
Like when my father says something racist, I say, shut the fuck up, Dad.
Yeah. Yep.
And I get to, because I'm 56 and he's 84 and we're both adults now.
Right.
I don't live under his roof.
Yes.
And if he said some shitbag thing the other day and I quipped right back at him and I got a laugh from him.
Nice.
But I was also like, there was a knee-jerk part of me that was like, no, he's just trying to button push. He's not really racist. And I'm like, yeah, but he's racist in the way that he's using racism to button push you.
Right.
That is a racist activity.
Yeah. That's saying, I know this affects you in a way, so I'm going to fucking needle you with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So please try to.
The amount of family members I have argued that I actually, even to this day, like, we'll see each other at a funeral, God willing. theirs.
Oh,
but like,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I swear to God, as a child, I was promised that racists and sexists were all old and they were going to die off.
Me too. Right.
And there's always some 35-year-old with, what is that called when you're on deck and you're just
with
the donuts
winding up.
Just some 35-year-old just shitbag waiting. It's like, no, it's almost my turn to be horrible.
Yes.
And then they get in some position of power and you're like,
yes.
No, not cool.
Know. It's unfucking real how that works. And then you get into a position of power, and it just feels like I'm somehow left out of the loop. But like, I argue with my family members throughout this whole thing. I mean, about fucking cops, and it didn't matter. Like the cognitive dissonance with an argument with that, because it gets to a certain. I do take a while before I get to just the fuck you, because I will go, all right, they don't know. I'm going to show them. Bam, article, statistic, and I waste all this time. And then when they don't get it, I go, fuck you, we're done here. You know what I mean? And then they're like, why do you have to use such language? I'm like, because the other language I used wasn't getting to you.
So
now I'm going to wish for your death. Yeah.
There was dialogue. Exactly. There was dialogue. And then there's, oh, you're willfully ignorant.
Right.
And your white supremacism is showing. So
exactly.
We all have ingrained racism. I read an idiot book. It's a book. Okay. So there's an adult version. There's a teen version. And there is a version that my friend who teaches 5th grade uses with her 5th graders. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's that one? No. Let's start at the bottom. And I will just, so that I know that I'm getting it. And so it's called Stamped for kids. Ooh. And there's a Stamped for adults and there's a Stamped for teens.
No way.
And I have so far finished Stamped for kids. And Stamped for kids is literally just the difference between being not being racist and being anti-racist.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Right? And it sort of defines it. And it defines white supremacism, and it defines some assumptions. And it just sort of shines a light on it. So you're just like, right. It doesn't, because in the 70s they defined racism. They didn't define anti-racism. And racism was defined as you hate somebody because of what they look like.
Right.
And so you could walk around going, that's not why I hate people. I don't hate people because of what they look like.
Always an excuse.
And my stepmother hilariously was she did good work in anti-racism, but she was mostly just not racist, right? The difference being very fine in the way that sometimes she treated people of color as somehow more noble because of what they had suffered. Right. And at which point the people of color would be like, well, you're exhausting.
Yeah.
And, like her friends who were black and brown, she had friends who were just like, no, I know what you're trying to. Okay. No, I'm here. And I have done that. I have had one of my friends had to actually say to me when Trump took power, got elected, whatever happened there. Yeah. And she goes, is this the first time you've been disappointed? And I was like, I don't know, Regan. And she was like, you're exhausting. Anyway. So, yeah.
No, I know what you mean. It is kind of weird. And especially to have to go, there was a point during the pandemic where, everybody was going on podcasts and stuff like that. And we were all talking about stuff. So it seemed like everything was just happening, especially with like the BLM protests and the income inequality stuff and the election stuff and everything that was going on. And I was, I met somebody online. Oh my God, what's his name? I don't know. He's a comic out of Texas. And he asked me to come on a show a couple of times. And then there was the point where, because I was, me, I'm always talking about political stuff or whatever. And at one point during the pandemic, I had actively almost gotten a restaurant in my old hometown kind of burned down, which I go back and forth on whether or not I would have given a shit. I'm saying this on air. I don't know why. Condemning myself. But they had posted a neon sign back in 5 years ago when Eric Garner got killed. And because I grew up in a Republican county, the only Republican county in New Jersey is where I grew up, right? Which is just unfortunate. But they posted on this giant neon sign, like right down the street from where I used to live. I obey the law. I can breathe. And I remember then, and I didn't have as many followers back then, but I was still doing stand-up, and I remember thinking, fuck you, and I posted about it. Cut to the pandemic, and people asking for money, for restaurants and stuff. Please support us. We're hurting, yada, yada, yada. We had to shut down. And then this fucking scumbag tried to do it, and I was like, I remember that sign. So I reposted it, and I was basically, I didn't think it was going to get caught in the media or anything like that, but I was just like, hey, look, we're all hurting. Everybody's trying to figure out where to put their money. Here's a place not to put it. And then it fucked it. And then he had to do a public apology, and then he did, and I called him out on it for being full of shit. And I was like, also apologize for the penny vodka because it sucks. So then I was like, whatever. So it got blown up, whatever. And I went on this guy's podcast, and we had a good time. And it was, he's a black comic out in Texas or whatever. Then something happened that was crazy during it was the one of the cases where the cops had murdered Breonna Taylor, and I think it was at the point where they realized they weren't going to do anything about it. Something had gotten where they gotten away with it again. He invited me on to talk about it, and it is at that moment I never listened more because I don't know why I was there, and I invited Joanne at the same was like, yeah, Joanne and I will come on, and we'll love to talk about that kind of stuff, and I'm always very vocal, but it was me and him and an Hispanic comic and another black comedian. And I literally just remember sitting there like, we sat there for 2 hours. I chimed in, when I could, but it was a very interesting lesson to just go, I'm literally just going to listen because I have nothing to they were feeling some shit. Cause it wasn't like we were going on to talk about it, but it had just happened. So it was like, we're still going live. And then, this was,
it's a hard enough skill to listen to anybody.
Yeah.
Much less, when you do stand up, I spend a fair enough time, trying to listen to my friends and family.
Yeah.
Much less in a public situation where you are not anywhere close.
Right.
To being the one who should have a voice in this.
Yeah.
I think I was on something where I didn't say much because I was sort of, I wasn't the demographic, right? That they were talking about. So I decided, and so I got at least 2 or 3 people going, you sounded really smart. And I was like, yeah, that's because I didn't say anything.
Yes,
exactly. Turns out going to sound super smart when I just pipe up and go, you're right.
Yeah. And yes, exactly. And the funny thing was, is that he was very kind of funny about it. He's like, I don't want the whole episode to go like this. And when he would ask me something or Joanne or whatever, he would kind of be like, listen, I know you must feel like, and I was like, hey man, you guys do you, this is, you don't have to apologize. I'm just here to listen. But it was a kind of a different moment because everyone was talking about listening. And I was like, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about right in this moment. I have nothing to fucking say, it's not, it made me angry, but it was not the same level of angry that it made people who it was, more affected by. It's weird times. But also, do you ever feel like this was somewhat a silver, COVID, as fucked up as it is, and it is fucked up. Lost a tremendous amount of people. I lost friends and stuff too. But the silver lining, if you had to find one, was everybody was sort of not obligated to do the shit they didn't want to do at a point in time when the country needed them to pay attention to the injustices. It seem like everybody was they weren't burdened by their bullshit jobs or paying rent because nobody could pay rent. So there was that holding pattern. And then all of a sudden everybody was out in the fucking street. I mean, I went to it just seemed like it was a rough time for everybody, but also one of those moments where it was like, wow, this is what the country actually feels like. And this is what this is what you get to see us feeling like when we're not burdened with fucking horseshit.
Right. There's so many interesting, there's so much hope in all of this sadness, right?
Yeah.
There's sadness, there's anger, there's rage, there's learning, and there's people rising to the occasion, and there's people learning, and there's so much. I spent, and this is lateral, but I spent 16 months in this garage doing Zoom shows.
Yeah.
Not literally walking up and down my block,
right?
Not getting groceries delivered, driving up to my mother-in-law's house once a week to do her chores because she has, she's older lady. And I was like, she's got to be in our pod, and she lives outside of a tiny, stupid town.
Yeah.
In the Central Valley, Devin Nunez country, and so. but we would bring her, they would deliver her groceries to us, and then, Instacart, and then we would drive up there and we get to spend a couple hours with her. And her partner died of cancer after 42 years.
Oh my God.
Like 3 years ago.
Horrible.
So she was super, she was still mourning when we started doing this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've never I spent 16 months with my husband. What? And like it broke up relationships, but it also made other relationships stronger. I found a certain amount of like meditative, metaphysical God consciousness, hippie skippy crystal clutcher, Christian God, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I found some peace of mind and a little bit of serenity in being able to give up the results of things that I could not control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was like, all I can do is the next indicated action.
Yeah.
And all I can do is try to help the person in front of me. Yep. And I did hundreds of Zoom shows, Twitch shows on, and I want to get back into them because they were fun.
Right.
And there were people in rural Canada, people all over the world who never got to see me that are just, and they don't get to go to comedy clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun. Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say that was the coolest part. There was like, I have a bizarre amount of contacts that I still kind of we'll keep in touch through all that in the Netherlands, in fucking Australia, and they were just like, hey, we love watching you. We love, seeing your show or we love doing whatever. And I'm like, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah. And I've seen more television than I have in decades. I have seen a murder mystery show from Australia called Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries.
Oh, shit.
It's 1928 the whole time, you guys. The whole time.
Wow.
And I've read the books. There's 21 books. I've read 14 of them.
Oh, wow.
It's all 1928. Wow. Turns out she's a private eye. If she were a D&D character, she'd be maxed.
Yes.
Because she's beautiful, rich. She's on the right side of history. She has a gold-plated gun. She can ride a horse backwards. She can fly a biplane. She's a genius. Anyway, Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries, Amazon Prime, Acorn. Also, Broken Wood is Columbo, but set in New Zealand.
Oh, nice.
Who doesn't, in modern day,
Who
doesn't fucking want that?
Yeah, the president. I want to go to
Prime.
New Zealand so bad. The president's so fucking
HBO
awesome.
Max sitcom called Ghosts. Ridiculous. With a pile of, I think it's like an entire improv troupe.
Right.
They got 3 seasons where this couple inherits a mansion out in the middle of nowhere in England. And all the ghosts that died there's a Neanderthal, there's a member of parliament without his pants on from the 80s. There's a Boy Scout troop guy with an arrow in his neck. They're hilarious. It is adorable and hilarious.
Can I pitch my ghost show to you?
Sure.
It's called, all right, ready? All right. It's a ghost hunting show for Italians called Gabagool, right? And and their technique for getting these ghosts out is that they try to figure out what kind of pasta it liked. But it's a ghost show combination cooking show. Come on.
Why wouldn't it be? Why would not it be? Why not?
So
Does anyone want to make my action hero? It's called Hard Target. Me and like Wanda Sykes work at Target. And then right at closing time, terrorists break in and we Home Alone fight them with things found at Target. And there's a love interest, and it's the pharmacist.
Oh, and I'm making a D&D character right now called Rab Crangoon, and it is a. I was hungry. But he's going to be pretty powerful, and he's got one claw, right? And the other hand is like a spear hand that shoots out. He's got a tattered captain's jacket from a captain he murdered, but it's tattered because he couldn't get it on with the he was really struck.
Sure, Edward Scissorhands. Yeah,
right. That's his. It's a real tragic. I don't know the whole backstory yet, but it's literally a day old. I'm excited.
Brian Posehn has a D&D game called Nerd Poker.
Oh,
that's a podcast that I have. I've only been on sort of the the special ones. I'm not one of the regular players. He'll have extra ones, and I always play a character called Gaston Mansplain. And Gaston Mansplain is a fighter, and whenever anybody suggests anything, Gaston gets in there and suggests it as well. And you know what that is? That's funny, and then it's irritating.
Yes.
And then it's funny again.
Oh, that's so great. My oh my God. My current D&D character that we've been playing for a while since the pandemic started is a wizard, right? He's a wizard. But here's the thing. He's a guy who killed a wizard who is now pretending to be a wizard and gets caught up with these other groups. So all his tricks are really kind of clunky and mechanical.
Ooh,
at first.
It's like Willow. Yeah.
Yes.
Where he's just like, it's the old hiding the pig. Willow, use the wand.
Yes. And
that's my impression of that lady as a goat. Anyway, go ahead.
And as he goes on, like, to the thing, like, he actually does, like I pick up real magic artifacts because everybody keeps giving, you must know what to do with this. I'm like, oh. And so each of my spells are either insanely powerful or the end result is they can fucking kill me. I've died so many times in this, but my friend who's the DM kind of loves it because I just don't do. I made a deal with rat people at one point in the game who were fighting lobster people, and then the spell I had, like, I accidentally brought livestock, like to reanimate, like dead livestock, like just it's just so much fun. But his name is Shanksy, and I don't know why. I think I was whatever. But it's so much. I love that shit so much that it's just great. That's awesome. Fucking Gaston Mansplain. That is a great fucking character. Jesus Christ. That is brilliant. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
John, I love John. John never knows how to react to things.
I know. I'm so fucking
It's called a private chat, John.
I know.
He doesn't have an inside. He doesn't have inside voice in his head.
No worries.
It's just burned out. I don't know why. I think it's the same thing that allows me to approach people I don't know and go, "Hey, you're cool. Want to be friends?" And they're like,
"Yeah."
Oh,
I fell down a flight of stairs Saturday night.
Holy shit!
Wow.
Yeah, I was by the Alameda Comedy Club out the back door. Concrete stairs, just slipped and banged the back of my head, goose egg, and literally bam. And then the waiter came out and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No."
Wow.
No.
Oh my God.
I don't know what the hell's. I don't know. Am I dead? And I literally was terrified I was dead. I had to do another set. So I did it seated. Did a Bill Cosby sans and rape. And I only did 40. I told the club owner, who is the nicest guy in the goddamn world.
Wow.
I was like, I think I'm only going to do 40. And he goes, "Is it because I already paid you?" And then get this, club owner guy, the night he's class act, man. He drove me to the ER at like 1 o'clock in the morning to get a CAT scan and waited out the parking lot and drove me back to the hotel at 2 when the CAT scan was okay. It turns out my brain, it's my best feature, John.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna need it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I hope so. Everything's good. Are you? Do you know if you're all right or?
I'm better. Yesterday was. So I got home. So I had to fly home on Sunday, and then I slept for a long time. Okay. And then on yesterday, I was like, "Why am I still sore?" Well, because I'm still sore. Right. I'm lucky I didn't break a hip. Right. I'm lucky I didn't break shit. And so I'm just, I'm just still a little stiff. But other than that, I gently knock on my own brain box.
Yeah. Well, so wait, before, like, tell me about Staycation though, because that's your new album coming out.
Staycation drops will come out November 16th. I also filmed the special. If anyone knows, beautiful, anybody fancy who wants to buy it, because I paid for it. But if nobody does, I'm just going to put it on YouTube. Okay. And I'm going to cut it up into 30-second, 1-minute clumps so that I can put it on TikTok, because TikTok loves fucking stand-up, man.
Yes, they do.
And they like it in small chunks. So
yes.
But the new album is coming out, 800 Pound Gorilla. It's called Staycation.
Beautiful.
and it's super fun. And then I have 2 podcasts, The Dork Forest and The Jackie and Laurie Show.
Yes.
And then I do stand-up comedy all over the place. So feel free to go to JackieKashian.com and watch me do stand-up, a video, a Conan or an NPR or something.
Yeah.
Or buy some merch. I have a garage full of merch.
I love the shirt you gave me from Dork. By the way, that is I fucking love those shirts. Do you still?
Is
you still
that
have
black
all them?
one or?
Yeah, it's the black one with the.
That one's discontinued. That's the Ranger. I only got XL and XX left. Feel free to get in on that. And then the new one. They're Bayside Union made T-shirts because while I'm willing to wear clothing made by toddlers, I am unwilling to sell clothing made by toddlers. So they are union made here in America. So they run big, you guys, because they're made by Americans.
Nice.
I remember when I was like, oh, can I get a small? And you were like, no.
Small's the only one that runs true. It's weird. The mediums run big, and the XL and XX, which are I have smalls, XL and XX left, and the XL and XX. You and a friend, knock yourself out.
Yeah, I would love that. That's the best COVID thing you could do. Like, hey, me and you just locked in here together. Want to be my pod?
Cozy up,
shirt?
Cozy.
And I'm going to ask you before you get out of here. I'm going to ask you 2 questions that are staples of the show. One of them is actually you'll be the second person to ever ask this question, but I'll ask you the original one first. If you know, there's a lot of exposition that's no reason.
I was going to say, could you talk more about what questions you're thinking of asking me?
I don't know what is. Do you understand?
That's me channeling Laurie Kilmartin. Why don't I just let you do your thing? There you go.
And I love how he prefaced it with 2 questions that are staple to the show, and you'll be the second person to answer this question.
You know why? Because my brain automatically autocorrects. I say a thing, and then I go, that's slightly incorrect. Say the other thing, and then I say the other thing.
Why would you lie to someone?
Yes, that's what happens to me.
I know it.
Oh, it's fucking awful. Anyway, I suck. Here we go. So do you, so if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self and give yourself a piece of advice that would help you today, what would it be?
You know, this is a common question. This question I feel like it is. Really irritates me to some extent. You've infuriated me. I'm going to storm out.
The second one's better.
Well, because here's the thing. It's like, there's no way I'm listening to anyone, right?
Ooh,
like if I'm 17 or 18, I might say, hey, you're hotter than you think. Get some more dick. That seems really a weird thing to say to somebody who's like, hey, I'm your 56-year-old alter ego. You're super bendy right now. And quit having crushes on those mediocre male comics who aren't any funnier than you are. And you're fine. Don't sweat it. And don't worry about being aggressive. You know, all the comics I know who have specials, who sold them, and who have sitcoms and stuff like that, they literally are aggressive. They're genuinely out there going, no, I'm great. You really should fucking buy this thing because you're wrong.
Yeah.
This is amazing. And get on it, Jimmy Fallon. Get on it, Conan O'Brien. Get on, you know, whoever Netflix guy, Jack. Whatever that guy's name is.
It is Jack something. Same as the Twitter guy. Yeah.
I think his name is Jack. Anyway, so that's, I guess, what I would say is that quit being so nice, Jackie, except for the fact that there's part of me that's nice. You hate to change anything, right?
Yes.
Because my life might be worse. My life is amazing right now, quite honestly. We're living in a pandemic in the middle of the shittiest civil war I've ever seen in my life. And I am loved. I am surrounded by love and support, and I live indoors. And I'm about to go eat some lentil soup. Life doesn't get any better.
I love it. That was great. And so, so now the second question is, because I love that you just said your life is great right now. What in your life had to end for you to get for you to be who you are now?
Oh, well, I mean, that one's an easy one. I used to drink like a fish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I crawled into a bottle, you know. There was just like I had a place to go, and it was Drunky Drunkerson land.
Was that when you started comedy or before that?
No, to get where I am, I haven't drank in about 20 years.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And on purpose, by the way.
Right.
This is a task to not drink because I have a genuine allergy to alcohol.
All right.
Where once I start drinking, I cannot stop. I don't know. So it is a dumb physical reaction.
Yeah.
And then when I stop drinking, my brain will say, well, you haven't had a shot in a beer in like 2 months. You could probably have a shot in a beer. My brain will not even lie to me just to have a beer. My brain is like, no, you're going to want a shot with that.
Wow.
And so about 20 odd years ago, I stopped drinking, and there's so much you can get done when you're not drunk. It turns out, when you're not hungover, when you're not, you like the first thing I was scared was that I wasn't going to be funny.
Yeah.
The next thing I was scared about concurrently was that I wouldn't be fun. And that, is that for me to say? Am I fun?
Oh, you're
but people do like me, and I have a good time. And the friends, and there's an opportunity in my life. Like, I stopped doing a lot of things when I stopped being drunk all the time. I stopped stealing. I stopped lying. There was once I start drinking, I need to drink. Yeah. So I'm like, look over there. I'm going to finish your drink. So I'm a shitbag is what I am. I'm not a good person.
Does that often work on people?
You would be surprised. Well,
that is fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. That flew fucking by the way. That was beautiful. That was great. Thank you so much. Seriously.
And now I have a million more questions. We have to have you back because those were all great answers. And now I'm like, I have a million questions about all of those answers.
Yeah.
Well,
we didn't get to talk about the Spider-Man trailer. We do have to have some kind of part 2. I hope you can come back.
I went and saw Shang-Chi yesterday. Saw Black Widow several times.
Yeah,
same. Loving What If.
Yes.
And am enjoying right now. I think what did I just read that was real nice? Ooh. It wasn't New Mutants, was it? I think it might be X Factor. Whatever.
Oh, X Factor's amazing though. It could have been.
Yeah, right now is a good one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
cool.
Looking forward to the Eternals. Anyway, thanks a lot, you guys.
Take care. Good seeing you.
Dystopia tonight.